Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are continuing our journey recapping Shark Tank Season 16 with Episode 15. Before we get started, I do have to give this episode a minor disclaimer. Y'all, I am very, very ill. I have been so ill this week. I've waited till like the last possible moment to film this, hoping I'll be at my peak non-illness while filming this, but I just wanted to let y'all know that ahead of time in case things get weird. I don't know. I'm just doing my best. I'm wearing my doing my best sweatshirt because that's all I can do right now, but just keep that in mind. I wrote my notes very ill. Obviously, that's probably why I sound a little off. We're all just gonna do our best. This was a fun episode, and we're gonna have a good time, okay? We can do it. Let's go. Our sharks for the episode are Barbara, Daniel, Kevin, Lori, and Mark. Our first pitch of the night is History by Mail. Ari walked into the tank looking for $250,000 for 10% of his subscription history replicas. Here it is. How it works is you sign up for the subscription, and each month you get a little piece of history in the mail in the form of a replica of a historical document or things of that nature. For pricing, we don't really get the cost to make these, and we don't get wholesale pricing either, which I think is funny because he does wholesale these to the website Uncommon Goods. If you haven't heard of it, it's like a really popular gifting website. I know I've gotten quite a few gifts from there. What we do get is the different retail prices on their website, so you can either do monthly, a 6-month subscription, or an annual subscription, and they are $9, $42, or $78, respectively, in that order. They've been in business 5 years and 9 months, very specifically. He says that in his whole opening thing. He's like dressed as Abraham Lincoln, and he's like, 5 years and 9 months ago. It's great, fantastic. I love a bit. And in that time, their lifetime sales are $3 million. In the last 12 months, they've done a little over $1 million, and they're estimated to end the year of 2024 at $1.3 million. And yes, we have a profitable company. Bow, 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 bow. They have a 43% net operating margin, so good for them.
Why are you here, Ari? You're killing it.
I'm here for you.
Come on now.
Clearly the business is doing quite well, so all the sharks are kind of wondering why he's in the tank and what he wants to do with the $250,000. And he says his big goal is to tap into more bulk sales, aka places like schools or museums, because really so far all they've focused on is direct-to-consumer or doing like the gifting side of things.
You don't need the $250,000.
Oh, wait
That
a
is
second.
true. I'm not here.
Listen,
Say it.
And that part was so funny to me. When the guy's like about to say that he doesn't need the money, Lori being like, say it. I don't know why she was so eager, and I don't know why it was so funny to me. It made me laugh multiple times. Maybe it's the illness taking over my brain, but it also kind of reminded me of in Twilight when he's like, you know what I am, say it. Like, it was just so funny. I would love to hear why she was so, like, eager about it. Anyway, so clearly at this point he tells them that he really isn't there for the money. What he's there for is mentorship from a shark. Unfortunately, this isn't a good enough answer for Mark. Mark feels like he is killing it all on his own, and he just needs to keep going that path, and because of that, Mark is out. But not all hope is lost, because Kevin is still very interested and decides he wants to make an offer, but his big concern is getting his money back ever. So he decides that he's going to make the offer $250,000 for 20%. But that's not all, because Daniel also goes in deciding to match Kevin's offer and also giving us a great line while he does it.
I know this is Shark Tank, but I'm a little bit more of a dolphin, a little bit more noble than this guy.
Then we have Barbara jump in to ask what they've done so far with social media, because in her words, he's the perfect nerd. When Barbara said this, I mean, like, is she wrong? No, but also, like, I can't imagine just standing up there and Barbara being like, you know, you're the perfect nerd. You should get on social media and be the little weird nerdy history boy you are, little weird history nerdy boy. Like, I don't know. She didn't say it like that, obviously, but you could even tell he was kind of like, is this a compliment? Are they ragging on me? I'm not sure. I'm gonna sit here and smile and nod and hope I get an offer. Ari then goes on to admit that they really haven't done a lot with social media, mostly just because he himself isn't really on social media, and this prompts Kevin, who we all know always loves to bring up his, huge followers and social media presence. Kevin's like, where do you live? And he's like, Chicago. Kevin's like, perfect. I'll fly out to Chicago, we'll film a bunch of 60s, 45-second, 30 clips, put them all over, be internet famous, we got this. And honestly, it would be funny to watch Kevin and this guy, chopping it up about history. I would giggle. I would watch it. I'm not gonna pretend I wouldn't. After this, we have Lori, who jumps in to stop everything, like she loves to do, just to give her famous line of, it's a great business for you, not investable for me. I'm out. Bye-bye. After our distraction to let Lori go out, Daniel continues to agree with Barbara, saying that he feels like Ari would just kill it on social media. And this prompts Ari to ask, would Daniel and Barbara consider going in together? And they're into it, and they agree to come in together for the deal of $250,000 for 20%. And Kevin's response to this is so funny. I love, this happens so much where sharks will pair up and then Kevin is alone in a deal and he's like, I didn't want to pair up with anyone anyway. I wanted to do this on my own. It's like, that's okay, Kevin. Nobody was asking you to pair up, but I'm glad you didn't want to. Yeah, it's because you didn't want to. So, of course, this kind of makes a battle between the two camps. We have Daniel and Barbara versus Kevin. First, we have Daniel start being like, I love history. History was my favorite subject in school. They were always my favorite teachers, giving us all of that. And then we have Kevin's argument.
Well, I can beat that, Ari, because I lived history. I was born in 1601. I'm a vampire.
Right.
Truly so funny. There's one thing you can never say about Kevin, and you can never say that man is not hilarious. He's given us some of the best one-liners in show history. Such a funny man, everything else aside about him. Just he's funny. He's so funny. And even though Kevin's argument is very compelling, unfortunately, it's not enough to sway Ari, and he decides to make the deal with Barbara and Daniel for $250,000 for 20%. To start off, final thoughts. I like it. I know there are too many subscription things out there and blah, 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 but I do like something like this. I think it's really neat to be getting something like this in the mail every month, to be looking forward to. I like the physical aspect of it. I do think it's neat. I was on the website, I was kind of poking around. The only thing I'm kind of confused about in general, and this isn't from the episode, this was just from me looking at their website, was when I went on the website, there's the History by Mail subscription, but then they have add-ons like urban legends or national parks or U.S. holidays, but those add-ons are the same price as just a subscription. So what I don't understand is if you have to buy a subscription and then an add-on and then you're paying for 2 subscriptions, because I personally would love just the national parks one. I just want to get stuff about our national parks. I think that would be so cool. I like history, but I am kind of selective about what I think I would care the most about, and national parks would be something I would be so into. So that's something I would love to know. If anybody has used this service and has any insight on that, I could not figure it out from the website, but I'm not going to pay two subscription prices. It just doesn't, I don't quite understand. And maybe it's not an add-on, maybe it's its own thing, but don't call it an add-on then. I spent a lot of time very confused on the website the night before last, just trying to figure that out. So if anybody has any insight, let me know. I do agree with Mark and other sharks about I don't really know why he wanted to come into the tank. I mean, he really just kept being I want mentorship from one of y'all. So I'm happy if he's happy. I get it. If I had a business that was doing well enough and I could get Barbara to invest and go to her little summits she does for her entrepreneurs. I don't know if she still does that. They used to talk about it all the time. Barbara, maybe she still does, used to do these summits, where she would bring all of her entrepreneurs from Shark Tank together, and I would do almost anything to get to go to one of those. Literally, Barbara, hit me up. I want to go so bad. I don't have a business, but I just want to go. I think it's so cool. So I do get it. But, like, got a little sidetracked there. I get why he might want just, like, business mentorship in general. And maybe part of it is because, he sees future plans beyond this history by mail that he wants help with in the future. But I do get Mark and others' point of, like, you're killing it. Don't take an investor. Just take your money and run, bro. But there could be future plans that we're not seeing there. And if Ari's happy, I'm happy. I really liked this one. I thought it was a good one. We got great lines from Kevin. Overall, 10-10. Wish him nothing but the best. Our second pitch of the night is Future Circus. Brent walked into the tank looking for $500,000 for 5% of his virtual reality theme park. Here it is, and the plan behind it is they would use these virtual reality headsets and set up in places like parks or parking lots, wherever they could rent this kind of space, and you would get to participate in different games they have. So they have like this wizard one, they have a go-kart one, and you would just spend the day virtual realitying with your friends. So this is one of those where we're not going to go with the numbers up front. I'm just going to let it unfold as the pitch progresses. Now, if you've seen my other Shark Tank videos in the past, y'all know I do not get into these people's like personal stories or histories or any of that, but this one is important because this man's dad is the man who created Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, Nolan Bushnell. Wild. It's just an important factor considering like the whole like he was an engineer, his son's an engineer, but he does tell us, like, his dad was, like, super strict with them, didn't give any of them money. He's been working since the age of 12. He made his own way. So he very much, like, was trying to separate that. Mark just called it out because that's the kind of person Mark is. He was like, are you related to Nolan? It was so funny. So we do get that tidbit, but he's, like, very, like, my dad didn't do any of this for me. I did it. So just saying. One of the first big questions from all the sharks is what makes this different from all the other virtual reality stuff that's out there? I'm sure if you've been to them all, you've seen that you can do like those virtual reality coaster things. There's so much virtual reality stuff out there now. And at this point, we find out this is not his first venture into the space, but his second. He actually had a physical space in downtown Los Angeles that was a full virtual reality theme park. It did $8 million in 2019, but then lockdown happened and it completely eviscerated that business, and now they are starting brand new with this new concept. Of course, the next logical question is, well, if you knew that business was working, why didn't you just reopen that business? And his answer is pretty much that back then they were working with a lot older technology. They needed that big physical space so they could have like the tethers and the Wi-Fi access and all this other stuff. But now that technology has continued to progress, it's actually a lot cheaper and makes more sense for them to do these more portable type activities. Kevin then starts to talk about what I call dead malls, but what he uses the nicer term of B and C malls. I guess technically there is a difference. We don't need to get into that right now. I'm gonna get sidetracked. But Kevin brings up going into some of those spaces that, need some lifeblood pumped into them. And Brent says that his idea, if they would go with that, would be to give them some portion of the revenue, be it 10%, be it 20%. And of course they're like, okay, but if you're pitching this to a mall, like what do you think they would make? And he says that they would estimate between $1.5 and $2 million, but it was unclear like what time frame that means. Like he didn't say like, oh, we would be in your mall for 6 months and you would make this month. Like, I don't know if it was like an editing thing, but that was something I'm curious about. Like, what time frame are we talking about that you would make $1.5 to $2 million? Like a year, a couple months, a couple events? Lord knows, I don't know. But to be fair, really, Brent doesn't know either, because at this point, all the sharks and us find out that this is all just kind of conceptual. They haven't really run this model yet. They haven't really done a big event. They've done a little small events here and there, made a couple $1,000s, but they really haven't tried and tested this model out on a big scale like they're wanting to do. This begs the question, if you're a pre-revenue company, why is your valuation $10 million. And his answer to that is number one, they have all the software built out and ready to go, which Mark points out is yes, very expensive. We'll give him that. And also, Brent himself has all the experience from running their physical location that they ran. And since, this is the exact same model, that knowledge will just transfer over. I'm sorry. I got kind of frustrated with this because it's like, I hate when people give those kind of reasonings for why it's worth the valuation. It's like, well, I have some experience doing something similar enough, so I think I can do it. It's like, okay, that's not how a business valuation works, but whatever, man. And even though we all now know this is a pre-revenue company and he has not run this model yet, the Sharks are still kind of like trying to pin down what this would look like and are looking for more answers on, what things would cost and all that. So they ask about, how much could somebody expect to spend when they go to your little future circus? And he says that people can expect to spend about $20 on entertainment and $10 on food, which I would love to know again, I just feel like we got a lot of numbers, but not explanations. And again, part of it is just because he hasn't run this model out. But that's a good, am I paying $20 and I get to go to all the different games as many times as I want? Is that just doing a couple games? I need more answers, but he might not have them, so. So then Kevin asks what other investors they've had in this company, and that's when Brent informs us that the Sharks would be the very first round of investment, which very much bewilders and confuses the Sharks, because obviously, he would have had to raise money to do that first venture into all this with the actual physical location, which, yes, he did. They raised $40 million to get that up and running. So wild. And all the Sharks are kind of like, so why don't any of those investors want to continue on with you into this new venture? Feels a little weird that every single one of those people were like, nah, man, we're good. Just feels a little suspicious. And I bet you could probably imagine and guess this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. None of the Sharks like pretty much any of the answers he's given so far, and they all go out one by one for very, very similar reasons. Things like he came in too early, they all feel a little weirded out about the other investors not moving forward, and overall, it's just really risky, especially with the valuation he came in asking for, and unfortunately, Brent leaves the tank without a deal. First things first, they changed their name of their company to Dream Park instead of Future Circus, and honestly, thank God, because I think Future Circus was such a weird name for this. Because me personally, when I think I'm going to something that's labeling itself as a circus, I'm going to assume that I'm a spectator. I'm going to something that I'm going to watch. You know what I mean? I don't think of something that I'm going to actively participate in. So making it a dream park, meaning like putting it closer to the idea of a theme park, makes so much more sense to me. I have no idea why they had to change their name. I tried to look into it a little bit, but I have no idea why they changed their name. But they did. It is now Dream Park. As far as an investment, I'm super with the Sharks. This is not, if I had the money, if I was Mark, I'm a billionaire sitting up there, I have all the money in the world to do something like this. This is not one I would be putting my money in. I agree with them that I feel like it's a little weird that out of $40 million, I wonder how many investors it was. If he found like really, really crazy rich investors and it was just 3 of them and all 3 were like, nah, whatever. But it just feels like there's gotta be at least like, I don't know, maybe 10? I don't know. It just feels weird that not one singular one of them wanted to move forward. It could just be because years have passed and whatever, but I don't know, something about that susses me out as well. And then along with the idea that they haven't really proven this out a lot and the valuation of it, it'd be a no from me, dog. Then as far as the concept itself, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I've kind of gone back and forth with this one a lot. Like, I can see a world where people would want to do this. I could see, like, a city having their fair, like our state fair, maybe having this as part of the fair. I can see, like, how this could work in some ways, but I just don't personally, I don't know. I don't really feel like if this came to town, I would be jumping at the opportunity to go to it. I would because it's a Shark Tank business, but if they hadn't been on Shark Tank and this was just coming to my town, I don't know. I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it. I just don't think it looks that good. Honestly, like from the video of it all, I just don't think it looks good. It feels very much like they want to be Nintendo. They're like trying to skirt that line of looking like a Nintendo game, but not getting too close to get in trouble. And it just makes it look cheap, for lack of a better word. And I hate saying that. I feel bad saying that, but I just don't like the look of any of it. I've looked at some of their videos of people playing the games, and I don't know, it's just not my bag. It's not my thing. Also, mixed reality is kind of odd to me. I always feel like it would probably make me super motion sick. I feel like I either want to be full into virtual reality, where I'm just like in a whole other world, or like not. You know? And maybe I'm wrong for that, and maybe if it looked better, maybe if the graphics looked better, I'd be more into the mixed reality thing. But I think a lot of times with mixed reality, it just looks, we're just not there yet. It looks kind of off. And at the same time as we're not there yet, I also have the feeling of like, he kind of missed the boat with virtual reality. Not completely. Again, I've been going back and forth with this so much, guys. Y'all are seeing like my full just like battle I've been having with myself thinking about this one. But I feel like virtual reality was super, super popular like 6-7 years ago. Like I said, I know the mall by my college had one of those things where you could like kind of build your own coaster, and then you got into it and you put the little headset on and you got to ride in your coaster. So like, it's a thing that's out there. And it kind of feels like it's kind of lost its excitement over the years, and people who are really, really into it kind of have their own headsets and are playing. But I don't know, I could be wrong. This is definitely one that I would love to hear people's thoughts and opinions on, because obviously I cannot make up my own mind about all of it. Maybe it's partially just because I'm so sick. My brain's just like, I don't know. But I'd love to hear other people's opinions on this one, because I don't know. Our third pitch of the night is cow pots. Amanda walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 10% of her planting pots made of cow manure. Yes, you heard me right. These are planters made out of cow manure. Amanda and her family live on a dairy farm, and they were trying to find inventive ways to use the excess of cow manure they had, and thus Cow Pots was born. For the price breakdown, she uses the product she's holding in that last clip I was just playing a few seconds ago, and I am pretty sure it is a 12-pack of their number 4 square pots. I think that's right. I spent honestly too much time trying to double check and make sure, and then I realized, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, especially because I went on their website and the price just fluctuates a little bit, you know, as the sizes go up. So it is a 12-pack of one of their kind of normal size square packs of pots. And it cost them $1.30 to make. It wholesales for $2.60, and the MSRP on it is $6.15. And I'm gonna need y'all to hold your cows before I tell you this, but they have been in business since 2006. This is almost a 20-year-old company, and their lifetime sales are $3.5 million. And so, of course, with this being a larger spanning business, they want to know more about the more recent years. And she says the last 4 to 5 years, they've brought in $300,000 to $400,000. And I assume what she's saying is each year in the last 4 to 5 years, that's how much they brought in, because that would make sense mathematically, probably. But she doesn't say that. Like, the full sentence was just, last 4 to 5 years, we've brought in between 300, 400,000. So I don't know for sure, but we are going to make the assumption she means each year. So yearly, they're bringing in about $400,000. And once again, we do have a profitable company. Whoop, whoop. It's not anything crazy, but they are bringing in 10% net margin. And again, it might not be a lot, but it's better than losing millions of dollars every year, especially because this is an older company, and we have seen before some very old companies come in the tank and be like, yeah, we haven't made any money, but, so good for them. One of the first questions from all the sharks is about the competition that's out there, and they say their biggest competitor is from pots made out of something called peat moss. Now, if you are a long-time Shark Tank viewer, you probably already know what peat moss is, because all the way back in season 6, that's 10 years ago. I hadn't put that together yet. That's wild. 10 whole years ago, we had a man come into the tank with pit moss, and even back then, his product was something that was supposed to replace peat moss-based soil enhancers. So I think it's so funny that still 10 years later, we're trying to replace peat moss-based products, because like she says too, and like the pit moss guy said, peat moss just isn't a great thing that we're using to make these biodegradable sources because of the way peat moss is harvested from bogs. It takes a really long time for them to regenerate, so people have been trying to move away from using those sort of products. I also thought it was really funny that she just explained all this, and neither Mark or Kevin chimed in, because them, along with Robert, invested in the pit moss guy, and I'm pretty sure that deal went all the way through. So I thought it was really funny that none of them had anything to say about that, but just a fun fact for you all. They did invest in the pit moss guy, so I don't know why they didn't bring it up, but I'm bringing it up for you. Of course, with there being competition and obviously with the environmental aspects of it, the sharks want to know what the price difference is between their products, and she says their most comparable product that their competitors have, they would sell for about $3, meaning their competitors would sell it for about $3, and Cowpot's product would be more around $5, so it is going to be a more expensive product. Clearly, from the numbers she's given, it seems like the business is kind of at a plateau, so all the sharks are wondering what their plans are to start scaling even more, and she brings up the fact that they haven't really spent any money on marketing, and she feels like if they started to tap into that aspect of the business and put this in front of the right people, that could help to continue to grow the business. And at this point, Amanda and her dad own this business together. It's not just Amanda, it's Amanda and her dad. And we find out that Amanda's dad owns 98%, while she only owns 2%. Of course, all the sharks start being like, okay, where is he then? And she's like, somebody has to actually be out there doing all the work. And that's really all we get about the discrepancy between their ownership. But as somebody who's a professional nosy, I don't know what to call myself, but as somebody who is very, very nosy, I would definitely love to know why it's broken up like that. Like, I get that her dad, started this business most likely, and is like the person who came up with the idea, probably does a lot of the hands-on work, but it seems like Amanda has put in a lot into this business, like not even giving her 5%. I don't know. I'm so nosy, and I would love to hear more about that. So if anybody knows, or Amanda, if you're watching this, I'm just so nosy. But she lets us know that they can get the price down to the same as those paper type fillers that you usually see in those boxes. It sounds like what they need is just the money to either get that equipment or be in the right facility to get the pricing down to match the ones that are already out there. Unfortunately, this begins a slight downward turn as we have a mini avalanche of sharks going out, all for pretty much the same reason. We have Daniel, Mark, Barbara, and Lori all talking about how they don't really see that they could add value, and also being worried about this business continuing to scale and grow. And with that, all 4 of them are out. But hope is not lost yet, because Kevin is super interested, especially in the packaging side of the business, and he decides he wants to take a flyer on her and offers her $200,000 for 25%. She tries to counter for 20%, but Kevin talks about how much work is going to be needed to put into this business, especially trying to get the packaging side going, because that's a totally different thing from the Cowpot side. Unfortunately, though, she informs Kevin that they had come in with a limit of 20% and she can't go above it. At this point, Kevin decides to try to counter 22.5%, trying to meet in the middle, and it's at this point that all the other sharks start dogging on him, being like, oh, Kevin, just do the deal at 20%. what does it matter? It's just a couple percentage points. And it's always so funny to see like which side the sharks are going to be on because it's so variable. Sometimes they're on the entrepreneur being like, oh, it's just a few points, like you should do it. And then sometimes they're on the shark. If it's Kevin, they all usually are trying to convince Kevin to go lower. I think part of it's just because they don't think he'll do it, so they love ragging on him. Also, it's just super easy to rag on Kevin, but it's just very funny how kind of inconsistent they are with who they're gonna be like, you need to compromise today. It's something that I always find funny and fun. Amanda then pulls a card that I just applaud her for, which is she reminds Mr. Wonderful that he was just at the United Nations talking about sustainable development goals, and like this could be a great part of that. And honestly, great play on her part.
This is your chance to do good for the world.
Make the United Nations proud,
Oh my
Kevin.
goodness, you're really squeezing my head.
And it works because he ends up doing the deal with her for $200,000 for 20%.
I want to be known as Mr. Wonderful, the king of
You already are, Kevin.
First things first, I think this is a great testament and a great thing for future people wanting to go on Shark Tank to learn from. It's something I've always said. You need to go into the tank knowing these sharks. Like, I had no idea Kevin had done a talk about sustainable goals, but she did because it was important for her pitch to know that. So future Shark Tank people, honestly, anybody doing any pitching like this, you should know who you're pitching to so you can throw out a deep cut like that because it can sway the sharks. We've seen it before where an entrepreneur will like pull at a string of like, oh, well, I know you're so good at this because of something you've done for someone else, or like this exact example, and it works. So just a note for future entrepreneurs out there, this was a perfect example of you need to know those sharks inside and out. It will help you in the long run. Next, you may be thinking to yourself, this already exists. I know I already saw this. I saw this on TV somewhere. This is already happening. You would be right. You have seen it. But it was this business. I saw a bunch of people in the Reddit talking about this. This is how I discovered it too. Because people were like, I saw this somewhere. And it turns out that their business, their dairy farm, and the cowpots in particular were on dirty jobs all the way back in 2007. If you want to watch the episode, it's called Poo Pot Maker. But yeah, I had no idea. Out of all the reality shows we watched as a family, Dirty Jobs was never really one of them. Probably partially because we usually watched TV at dinner time, and those two things together aren't super appealing. But yeah, I had no idea, and I definitely want to go try to find this episode because I think it would be really neat to see it all the way back then, because they said they started the business in 2006, so that's only a year in. So wild. If you saw that episode, or if you were having that thought to yourself of, I feel like I've seen this before, definitely love to hear from you because I thought that was so fun. Back to the actual like pitching and the product. I think she's landed a good deal with Kevin. I hope it works out, especially the packaging side of things does seem really interesting, especially if they can get it priced at the same as other packaging. And then, you know, companies love to be like, we're eco-friendly and all that. Because something they were talking about, which is a problem, is a lot of these companies will put biodegradable packaging into boxes. But the caveat is, it's not just like normal biodegradable, like biodegradable, you can throw it in your backyard. It's biodegradable in certain like facilities. And a lot of places don't have those kind of facilities. So you get this box and then you end up just making more trash. So it's like, is it really biodegradable? But if companies could get this at the same price as some of those other products and like really proclaim like, look, we are so biodegradable, you can just throw this in your backyard, easy peasy. Maybe you could even like put a little plant in it. Who knows? I don't know what the transfer is for making it from packaging versus the pots, but still like very cool if they're able to do that. And if Kevin can help in any way getting that moving along, super cool. I love the product. I love stuff like this where like clearly they had a very big problem with cow manure. I knew that was a big thing for dairy farmers. Don't ask me why, because I don't know why either. I brought it up to my partner. I was like, yeah, I knew that that was a big issue. And he was like, why? It probably was because I've taken 2 different environmental science classes in high school and in college. Maybe that's why. We're having a moment learning this together. Either way, I knew this was a problem, so very cool for her and her family to be like, you know what? We'll turn... I was gonna say lemons into lemonade, but like shit into diamonds, I guess? Who knows? Anyway, our fourth and final pitch of the night is paper tacos. Jesus walked into the tank looking for $120,000 for 10% of his Spanish cultural greeting cards. Here it is. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but his goal was to create a line of greeting cards that was steeped in the Latinx culture and traditions, giving people from those backgrounds their own unique greeting cards for different special occasions. The cards cost him 57 cents to make. They wholesale for $2.75 and then they retail for around $5.50. He started the business in 2017, but he didn't really get serious about it until 2020, and we get a fun little sales ramp, which we haven't gotten all episode. In 2022, they did $13,000 in sales. In 2023, they did $68,000, and in 2024, year to date, they had done $152,000, and they were estimating to end the year at $188,000. And once again, we have a profitable company. Y'all can see why at the beginning I said this was a fun episode. I had a good time. To date, they have $60,000 in profit. That's word for word what he said, so I'm going with lifetime. That's how much profit that they've made overall. First, we have Barbara come in to say that she feels like she doesn't know the last time she sent or saw a greeting card, meaning she feels like the industry is kind of disappearing, but Jesus is quick to dispel this rumor and says that in the last 4 years, physical card sales have actually increased year after year. This gives Kevin the perfect opportunity to bring up one of his very successful Shark Tank businesses that he invested in, Love Pop, which was a greeting card company. They did these 3D greeting cards, they still do. And he agrees with Jesus, confirming that the industry is still booming despite what people may think. Of course, they want to know how he's selling these cards. He says 90% of the sales are wholesale, with only 10% being direct to consumer. They're in about 190 different boutique stores, and then they just recently got a deal with a regional grocery chain who said they're going to place their cards in 55 different stores. The Sharks then want to know what he wants to use the money for, and he tells us that he really wants to use some of it for marketing. They really haven't done a lot of that yet, and he feels like picking specific influencers and doing that sort of marketing can help get his cards in front of the right people who would want to buy them. Along with that, he wants to start printing the cards in-house, and so of course he's going to need to buy the equipment to do that. But doing that will also increase the profit margin. So then Kevin starts to try to go out, but Daniel stops him because Daniel really wants to partner together because of Kevin's knowledge with the greeting card space. But unfortunately, because of Kevin's deal with Love Pop, it's just a non-starter and he is out. However, Daniel still wants to make a deal with him, and while he might not have a lot of knowledge on the greeting card space, he does feel like he can help him by getting him into different Hispanic grocery stores or pharmacies or other businesses that, for example, Kind Bar already have relationships with. So he offers him $120,000 for 35%. We then have both Barbara and Mark jump in to say that they really don't think he should take an investor right now. He's killing it on his own and he should just keep going down that path. And because of that, they are both out. This does sort of divide the tank for a minute because we then have Lori come in to, once again, come in to give advice, but not an offer. She feels like with Daniel's expertise, it will really help grow the business. And while she's out, she feels like they should make the deal with Daniel. And Kevin is also in agreement with that. So we have two sharks saying take the deal, two sharks saying don't take the deal. And then, of course, Daniel obviously wants him to take the deal, but he doesn't really count in this equation of splitting the tank. Jesus tries to counter for 15%, but Daniel talks about how much work is going to be involved with helping Jesus to grow this company, but does offer to lower it to 30%. Jesus tries countering again for 25%, and then we have Mark, who jumps in to be like, how long did it take you to get into those 55 regional grocery stores? And do you think you could do it again with some more money? And Jesus is like, yeah, I could do it again. Yeah, it's such a weird, fast interaction. I almost, couldn't even understand what Mark was saying because it was just so quick. And Mark's like, what was the deal? 120 for 25%? Yeah, I'll do that. And once again, Mark swoops in and snipes the deal, and Jesus and him end up doing the deal for $120,000 for 25%. First, we need to take a minute to go back to Love Pop, because I'm gonna pull the sharks when they're like, oh, I know about this because of my investment. I recently got to go to a Love Pop store when I was in Disney World back last year. I saw that there was a Love Pop, like, physical store in their Disney Springs area, and I ran. I was like, I have to see this. I have to see it in all its glory. It was so cool. I took a little bit of video in there. I don't know what I ever thought I was going to use it for, but now I have a reasoning to. It was very cool. I didn't buy anything because I felt weird buying a card for myself, but my partner actually did buy a card for somebody. So we have as a household purchased Love Pop, just not me specifically. Although there was one I got really close to buying, and sometimes I regret it because it's just so cute. That's the thing about Love Pop, is like, it's little art pieces. It's so cute. And as somebody who already is a really big greeting card person, I am the person, if you send me a greeting card, I'm gonna keep it forever. I don't care if you just wrote like love you. I love greeting cards. That's always been a thing for me. So the Love Pop ones are really cool. It's such a cute little thing you can have in your house, but this pitch isn't about Love Pop. I just had to give my like little tidbit there. With that being said, I know his valuation was pretty high, but once it was greeting cards that he was just designing and were so personal to him, and he was only looking for $120,000, I was like, one of these people better invest in him or else we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. I don't care if I'm like super biased about this. I loved this one. This one hit a spot for me. I really love greeting cards. When my grandfather was still alive, that was something I used to love to do, was go to the grocery store, find a cute little greeting card, and write him a note just to say hi, that I was thinking about him. And that's just something really special for me. So I'm going to be biased about this one, and I don't care. I love this one. I hope Mark is able to help him. Because like Mark said, it just kind of seemed like he needed a little cash. And I hope all is well for Paper Tacos. I'm wishing them nothing but the best. And that is a wrap on Shark Tank Season 16, Episode 15. If you made it this far in the video, seriously, thank you so much, because this has been a difficult one for me to film. I feel like I've slowly been dying as I've been filming this. I am going to take the longest nap after this, except I still need to edit this. Oh well. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it down below. If you like reality TV, Shark Tank recaps, Shark Tank product reviews, check out the channel and subscribe. It is a good time over here. As always, I want to hear your thoughts, feelings, opinions, comments, all that and more down below. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.